Well, I think everybody here has had some sort of fear as a child, whether it's being afraid of the dark or thunderstorms or loud noises, but I was afraid of everything, and when my grandmother died, it escalated my fears until I just couldn't bear them. And one night, it was very soon after I had been put to bed, and I was sitting up in my bed. I can still feel the cold plaster wall against my back, and the room was very, very cold, the kind of cold that you experience when you step into a walk-in freezer, for example. When I saw a light starting to grow at the foot of my bed, and as I looked at it, thinking at first it might be the hall light, it grew until I could not see the wall behind it. It was a wonderful light. I've interviewed hundreds of people who have seen angels, both for my book, for Angel Watch magazine, and because people contact me frequently. And people always have difficulty describing the light that surrounds an angel. But I say, if a diamond were made of silver and the sunlight were shining through it, that would be what I saw. And out of that light gradually emerged a figure, a human-like figure with a masculine appearance, I think just for a reference point for my sake, with eyes that were so piercing and so compassionate that just looking at me seemed to drain the fear right out of me the way infection drains from a wound. Wow. And I sat there just mesmerized. And he smiled a little at me and he said, "Don't be afraid, Eileen. Your grandmother is not in a cold grave. She's happy in heaven with God and the people she loved." And I thought about that for a minute and it just felt right. And I remember I said, "Who are you?" And he said, I'm sorry. And he said, "I'm your guardian angel, child. Always remember, there's nothing to be afraid of." And as he said those words, he smiled again, and then he began to fade back into the light, and then the light itself gradually dissipated. And the room was the way it had been before, except instead of being cold and damp and dank, it was warm, and the air smelt like honey. And I was no longer afraid of anything.